Hey, everybody, welcome to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And we're coming to you on a rather unusual Friday night. We all had stuff going on last night of one variety or another. And we said, you know what? It's the offseason, so what the hell? Let's just move it to Friday. It's not like any of our loyal listeners have anything to do on a Friday. No offense to any of them. But as I see, none of them are in the chat currently, but maybe I've just offended all of them. I don't know. Anyway, Ian's here. Scarps is in. We're expecting Ben Anderson at some point. Who has it been 2 weeks now that he's missed?
He's missed the last two, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like doing laundry or something last week.
Yeah, laundry, and it's always something.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, and
remember that.
Welcome into Burner and Melvin. They have joined us.
Hi guys.
Like I said, like us, these guys obviously don't have anything to do on Friday night. So I mean, what better thing to do than pass the time with us? Joe's in as well. Oh, like the whole damn family's here. I'm telling you. Good to see everybody. Well, I sent you guys the agenda, and it's the off season, so there's not a ton of stuff. But I'm going to throw.
Oh, you expected me to read that?
You sound like my students. like, oh, we were supposed to read that? No, just stare at it. I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball. And Ian, since you joined first, I'll go to you first.
All right.
Mitch Trubisky. Keep him. Or save that $8 million and start over at backup quarterback.
So here's what I'll say on that is I don't know if Mitch is going to want to stay, but you could do worse than a veteran quarterback on an $8 million salary as kind of a, I'll say, security blanket that can basically run the same offense as your starting quarterback without a whole lot of drop-off in production.
Right.
So, we're not spending anything on Pickett's rookie salary right now. So it's not like we're, paying a starting quarterback $35 or $40 million a year and are also paying a backup $8 million. Like Trubisky's salary is pretty reasonable, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's willing to hang around, then I'd be fine with keeping him around. I think you could definitely do a lot worse for a backup quarterback. I think Mason is gone and is going to look for the first opportunity he has to, if not compete for a starting job, at least be a backup in a situation where the starter is kind of on tenuous ground.
Yeah.
So, or, the starter's an old guy with injury issues. So, I think you could do worse than Trubisky.
Okay. Scarps, what do you think?
I
mean, obviously, if he wants to stay,
isn't his cap hit like $10 million? I thought he has a pretty hefty cap hit.
It's around 10 something, I believe, and again, they could save $8 million by cutting him.
Yeah, so I think I look at obviously it takes two to tango, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Big Ben's Burner, you're right. Like there comes a point, right, when every man has his price, every player has his price. But if I'm Mitch, I want to go somewhere else because for better or for worse, they brought you here and then they drafted your replacement. And then at least to me, it sounds like something wasn't clicking, something wasn't, they didn't gel. There was no cohesion or whatever, because I've seen bad from Mitch. I've seen decent from him, sort of kind of like Pickett was this year. But I think that he had specific instructions early on to not blow it. And then he came in a couple times in relief and just looked like a different person. And yeah, I know he had that 3-pick game against the Ravens. Yeah. But if I'm him, I'm looking to get out of here. This is Pickett's team. And shit. Hey man, get me out of here. You can save money. I think that's a no-brainer. So, but for Art to sort of say, like, we expect him to be here, I was a little surprised by that.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah,
that's why I led with the question. And we'd like to welcome in Mr. Ben Anderson.
What's the question?
The question is regarding Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
We don't know if he wants to be here. But
I definitely got the sense that he does not want to be there.
That's kind of what we felt, Art, yesterday in his comments.
Yeah.
So where do you fall in on that?
I think Trubisky wants to be gone. Wouldn't shock me if they let him go ahead and leave. The whole volunteers, not hostages thing. And
exactly what Melvin said in the chat. Yeah,
$8 million is a lot for a backup quarterback anyway. So I think that's what he's going to make. I don't know. Somebody have his contract.
Yeah, it's 10 million cap hit, 8 million base salary.
Yeah, so $8 million, man. That's an awful lot to spend on a backup quarterback. Nah.
Yeah, I'm leaning in that direction too. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world. You're going to be starting pretty much fresh with the backup quarterback position.
Well, maybe unless Rudy sticks around.
Is it possible Rudy doesn't find any suitors?
I think he's going to be an LA Ram.
Do you?
Yeah.
Behind Baker?
Stafford's coming back.
Yeah, whatever.
Stafford's coming back because they owe him so much fucking money. But he played awfully this year. So it's like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, Melvin wants me to just dive right into what he calls the elephant in the room, which are the
Matt fucking Canada
comments by Art Rooney 2 yesterday. That look, they want Matt Canada back. They're bringing him back. They felt like they saw improvement in the offense over the second half of the season. As we've detailed on this very program, that improvement came against a little bit lesser competition. But be that as it may, it was improvement, and they're bringing him back. So we already knew that, but Ian, are you at all surprised AR2 went to the lengths that he did to describe why?
I mean, he basically said what I said last week on the show when you asked me to give my devil's advocate reason for bringing Canada back. But I think it was one of those things where maybe not even he. Let me back up. It was one of those things where the PR staff knew the question was going to come, so they prepared an answer for him so he could have an answer ready.
Now, I would like to go to our former Steelers PR man. Would the PR of the Steelers really do that? Give AR2 a soundbite?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I used to give him talking points, whether he read that, he did read them. But yes, I gave Coach Kevin and Art talking points. Obviously we as a PR team reviewed them to make sure we weren't missing anything. And, Kevin would sort of be like, Painhead, I know what I'm saying. Like Tom would be like just nod. But Art was different. And I think Art appreciated that you took the time. And there were so many questions he probably never would have been asked. But so Ian, or Steel Dad or Ben, whoever's on this call, it's been a long week. But the point that's what got to me was my talking point for him would have been, we believe in Canada. We got better. He has a good relationship with Kenny. He has a good relationship with the offensive staff, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't say that. So that's the thing. You either go all in on it and show that this is our guy. We believe in him. We got better. But no, he didn't. And his response was basically like, well, just because if we bring in another guy, he might not do, he might not be good. And then we have to start from scratch all over again. When I'm just sitting there thinking Canada's going to be gone after this year, right? Is he? Because then Kenny Pickett is a year older, so he'll be 47 years old, and then he'll have a new offensive coordinator in year 3. So he should have just went all in on Canada, and it didn't have to be over the top. He could have just said, "Yeah, we believe in Matt. We thought he got better. He has good good connection with Kenny, good connection with the players, blah blah blah." But he didn't. And to me, that goes back to the whole, and I'm not saying to fire Mike Tomlin or anything like that, but that's that whole lame excuse, like, well, who are we going to get that's any better? Who else can we get?
Yeah.
They might, but what happens if we get somebody else and they don't work out? Oh, I don't know. How you going to know if you don't try?
Well, here's my thing. People want to point at the second half of the season and say they improved so much and they're going to keep improving. The arrow is up. It's true. The arrow is up. The offensive line played better. The run game concepts were better. They were improved. The passing game concepts are still fucking horrible.
Yes.
Which means when you get into tighter confines in the red zone and you have less flexibility with your play calling, all you can do is run. It makes it a lot easier for the defense to defend just the run and ignore the pass, which they pretty much do.
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much dare us in the red zone to throw. We can't score. This offense isn't even average yet. This is my point. And as Ian has pointed out, I think we figured if they performed as well as they did the entire season, if they performed as well as they did in the second half, 20.8 points per game, they would have finished 19th in scoring behind the Browns, that offensive juggernaut. Yeah.
It's even worse.
As Ian pointed out, there's been no Super Bowl participant in the last decade that did not finish in the top 8 in scoring. We're miles from that. We're hanging on to this fucking guy for some fucking God unknown reason. And yes, there have been moments where the receivers did not do Pickett any favors. DJ and his constant fucking drops. But when you're constantly running curls and comebacks and you're throwing guys into hits, what the hell do you expect? Your chances of getting any kind of yard after the catch is minimal. Throw a guy open at some point. Design some plays to have some guys sitting out open.
One of the things that I looked at today, and I did it hastily, so I could have missed something. I looked at the 14 playoff teams. 5 of the teams that made the postseason this year had brand new people calling plays, offensive coordinators. So to me, this argument, and I understand it, but this argument of we can't waste a year of Pickett trying to learn another offense and all that stuff, I don't know that carries as much water as it once did.
Offensive coordinator has one of the highest turnovers of any position in the league.
Absolutely.
Because anyone who's good gets hired as a head coach, and anyone who stinks gets canned. The only one who's been consistently good, I'll say, with top 10 scoring offense over time that hasn't gotten a head coaching job is Eric Bieniemy. Pretty much everybody else, it's 2 or 3 years max. And if you're good, you're getting head coach interviews. And if you're bad, you're getting fired.
Now, does he call the plays in Kansas City, though? I don't think he does.
I don't know. He has the title of offensive coordinator, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what Matt Canada's title is if they produce those types of results, right? You know what I mean? I don't care if it's Tomlin or Reed, but that's the thing. Tomlin is not an offensive coach. He's not.
No.
And how many years now have we gotten, different accounts of who actually calls the plays on defense? So who's actually calling the plays on defense? Is it the mustache guy next to Canada calling the plays on offense? We'll never know. But as I said, every Steelers offensive coordinator since Kevin Gilbride has gotten at least 3 years. Every single one of them. And now Matt Canada is going to get his 3rd year.
Finger got 3 or 2.
Finger got 2.
Yeah, Randy got 2.
Who?
Randy.
No, 18, 19, 20.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure? I thought Todd was still there in 18.
Todd was at the Browns in 18. Todd's last year was 17. They let Todd go after that juggernaut of an offense. but so getting back to they just don't do that. It's once again, then your response should have been, hey, we believe in the guy. We think we're heading in the right direction. And instead it was just well, if we get, Yeah, well, maybe if we, we don't get, the guy, man, we might suck. Oh my God! Like, what are you like? What are you doing?
I agree with you. My
He
whole
did
point.
also make the points about we got better in the second half of the season.
So
and all
fucking
that
what?
Stuff. Well, I know. I'm just saying that
it's evident after watching this guy for 2 years that you're gonna have to fire him at the end of 23 anyway. And at that point, you're gonna have to start over and learn a new offense. Why not just get it over with soon? Why not just have him learn it now? Why put it off for a year? I think everybody's screaming that same fucking thing, and I agree. And hopefully Matt Canada will prove me wrong. But just like Mason Rudolph, he probably fucking won't because he sucks.
The other item related to that the guys in the chat were talking a little bit about the possibility of some type of senior offensive assistant coming in, because
it would be nice to have.
The Steelers
Art was asked about that, yeah.
Yeah, the Steelers typically bring in a person that I don't want to say they're necessarily waiting in the wings, but they definitely can take over, a la they did with Canada with Fichtner.
They usually do that though on defense. I mean,
right.
They brought Canada in, and people were excited. I still think they were fucking stupid to be excited about Matt Canada's offense, but whatever. And I thought so at the time. I was like, what's he going to do? Add some motion? You guys are Pitt fans, Pitt stands, obviously.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that was going to help, you're I don't know. You haven't been watching football, NFL football, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, I have not seen them hire a senior offensive assistant ever.
Well, I'm going to throw two names. The obvious is Leftwich. He's still out there. Okay. He'd be a guy that would be, and by senior, I don't even know that I refer to him as that. He's still relatively young as a coach. But the other guy, and I don't know that he would do it. What about Jim Caldwell?
Caldwell would be a great hire.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'd be terrific to come in that role.
I agree. I don't know that he'd do it.
Right. And that's the problem.
Oh, my God. What are we talking about here right now?
I mean,
Scarpino, do you dare disagree with the host of this program?
Yeah, I'm disagreeing with all three of you. And go ahead. I'll go last. That's fine.
Okay.
No, I need to hear this. Why do you disagree with that?
Go ahead. I'll let Ryan go.
Respect Jim Caldwell. I think he did a great job with the Colts. I think he got a raw deal with the Lions. But Jim Caldwell's almost 70 years old. Okay?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Byron Leftwich is 42. Fine. Anyone that's ready to collect Social Security, please. No. Canada's already in his 50s. Like, this is just, we need a young person in that role. If we're going to hire an offensive assistant or a senior offensive assistant, and we call it senior, doesn't mean you got to be a senior citizen.
Right.
But like, let's be real about it. Didi Kinkwabala brought this up, and I do respect Didi, and she does a great job. But she said maybe bring in Jim Caldwell as the offensive coordinator, and I'm just like, oh my God, like what are we doing? Like, the game has evolved, the game has advanced, and we want to bring on guys that were born before the summer of love.
Richard Mann was 66 when they hired him. And he was 71 when he retired.
Position coach.
He did a pretty good fucking job.
He did, but he was a position coach.
And Jim Caldwell's not going to be a coordinator. He would be, he'd basically be a consultant.
But what's he going to bring to the table? The
passing game that might be competent.
I mean, when you had Peyton Manning at Indy, I think you did okay.
It makes it pretty fucking easy. I agree. well.
Not Matt Stafford at the Colts. Peyton Manning at Indy, and then Matt Stafford at the line. Sorry.
What about just situational football? I would trust Jim Caldwell with the help with some of that red zone shit. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be your offensive coordinator in waiting. I'm just looking at a guy that can bring in some experience and maybe just do some
stability, maybe get some guys to believe in what they're being asked to do instead of fucking standing around and bitching and pointing fingers at other players and at their coaches.
All I'm doing is spitball. If they do bring in that,
they need something. They need some kind of leadership and ingenuity on that side of the ball to be added to that recipe to bake some kind of a decent cake. Because what they're putting out there right now, it's not even mediocre.
No. Ian.
The only thing I'll add on Caldwell is, I think I've said it before on the show, but I really believe that there are guys whose best spot is at a certain level. And when they go higher, they get in trouble, right? Caldwell was a good offensive coordinator, not a great head coach. similarly like Jack Del Rio, really good defensive coordinator, really terrible head coach, right?
I think that Caldwell is a much better head coach than Jack Del Rio.
Well, okay, but you get my point, right? Mike Munchak was a good offensive line coach, not a good head coach.
Okay, yeah, right. But I think especially in Indy, Caldwell got fucked over, and he definitely got screwed over by the Lions too. I honestly don't think the guy's a bad head coach at all. He's not.
Broader point being,
he's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah. Okay. Broader point being, if you can get guys who have at least been head coaches, and even though that may not be the best role for them, get them into your building. That helps the overall leadership because they know what it takes to run an NFL team. And Tomlin has had success bringing in guys who had head coaching stints before, Munchak and Brian Flores and Haley, right? That, he's had success with guys like that were, I'll call them failed head coaches, to kind of bring them back at the end, to be like, hey, how can you help our team? Heck, Dick LeBeau had a stint as a head coach and, came back as being a defensive coordinator. So any guy who was previously a head coach, I think is a good idea to at least kick the tires on.
How about Urban Meyer?
Okay, that's a little different. He's was younger.
Scarps is just playing grab ass now.
I know.
He is. He's just fucking with us.
That one I definitely was.
No, but I mean, I think at some point you have to try and get some kind of young, innovative offensive mind in the building.
No question.
And
the
Steelers
I've been gone
have
for a week, so let me just ask you guys
2 weeks.
Well, you've been out for 2 weeks.
I've been out of the country for a week.
Right.
So what's going on with Flores now? You guys want to? I mean, basically, I read he was doing a tour of interviews, but so far,
he's interviewed in Cleveland. I think he didn't interview in Minnesota,
but
Arizona he interviewed.
Atlanta.
The Browns hired Jim Schwartz.
Yep.
So
good hire.
I mean, to me, I think if Flores wants the Arizona job, I think he's going to get it. But then I believe the Vikings D coordinator position
that's open as well.
Is open as well.
Yep.
But if I don't know.
I think the longer it goes, the better chance he has of staying in Pittsburgh.
I think Atlanta too for DC, correct?
Yeah. I mean, anytime you can be a head coach,
you've never begrudged a guy for that.
Especially after sort of the situation that happened with him, and obviously he can't talk about that because he's still in a legal battle. But I mean, to me that's a no-brainer. I'm going to go to Arizona. I'm going to be the head coach, and try to bring stability to an organization that need. And I think Flores is a much better leader that can do that than Cliff Kingsbury.
Agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah. So it is what it is. Matt Canada's here. Art Rooney 2's on board. It's going to happen. There's no use, bitching over it too much more because.
We're going to do plenty of bitching.
We're going to bitch.
Oh yeah, they'll be bitching
from now until after the Super Bowl next year when they finally face facts and fire his ass. He won't be continuing on with us. It'll just be a quiet little note. We appreciate everything he did. He won't be staying on.
No,
like a fart in the wind.
Yeah, exactly what it'll be. Yep. Just a reminder, we are part of the Pigskin Podcast Network, and that means we are very, very pleased to be associated with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TPPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NFL AFC title games coming up this week. Get 200 in free bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code TPPN. AFC, NFC coming up. We'll give you our predictions and all that stuff here towards the end of the show. Little free agency. I think there are positions, if you look at the free agent list, there are positions that might be a little bit too much money for what the Steelers might want to spend. versus other positions that are lacking in depth at the free agent spot. So,
and here's what I'll say, and I always say
Yeah.
this about free agency.
Yeah.
Is that the guys that we look at a list and yes, they're going to be pending free agents this year are not always the guys that wind up as free agents because they get re-signed, and then there's other guys who are cap casualties and are cut and things like that. So, we can hypothesize all we want about who we want or who might be available, but really, the teams, and under Kevin, the Steelers did a pretty good job of this. The teams that don't sign street free agents, but sign guys that get cut, that doesn't hurt your compensatory pick formula. So it works out better for you when you lose guys in free agency. So, those are really the guys like Joe Hayden, cut by the Browns. We signed him, didn't hurt our comp pick formula.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of guys you really want to look for, that when a team cuts somebody for a cap reason, those are the guys you really want to go after.
Well, and I'm thinking more for this discussion about position.
Okay.
Because, I saw some sites put out some stuff the other day. Well, the Steelers' number one target in free agency is going to be tackle Orlando Brown.
I don't think the Steelers are going to go after any high-end free agents because they never do.
Agree.
They never do. If they're going to pay top dollar, they pay their own guys in-house.
Yep.
And then they wait for the second-tier free agents from outside.
Yep.
Guys that are good value, good players, maybe a little undervalued, fit what you think the Steelers want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I said that about, Levi Wallace and Akella Witherspoon, and
mm-hmm.
neither one of those guys are good at doing what the Steelers are asking them to do. So, I don't know. We need corners, okay? And apparently,
and you should sign those in free agency.
Apparently, what we need to do is sign corners who can play off man and zone coverage exclusively, because that's all the Steelers are going to do. They're not going to put guys in bump or in man, even if that's what they're best at, because our defensive coordinator and probably our head coach are fucking stubborn, and they're going to run what they're going to run. And if the guys don't fit in it, well, they better figure it out. So what we need are corners. Cam Sutton aside, and God, I hope he comes back. I think he's probably going to be. By the way, I just want to put this out here as an aside real quick. When you read these valuations, Spotrac has this guy valued at this much money, and
just going to ask about that.
Has this guy valued. Those are fucking bullshit. They're always high or low, and they go, well, we're learning. We don't really
Right.
It's young science. It's not even a fucking science. You're guessing, okay? You're guessing based upon what you think, your evaluations, using probably fucking PFF grades. Back to the point at hand.
Yeah.
I think I saw something the other day that Cam Sutton is valued at like $7.5 million for 3 years. I think he's probably going to be more along the lines of 9.5.
I do too.
And if the Steelers are smart, they'll lock him up for 5. Because he's got inside-outside flexibility. He knows their scheme. They know him. He knows them.
Mm-hmm.
It's too good a fit. Give him his security. Give him a big chunk of money, guaranteed, and lock him up for 5 years at an average of 9.5 per. That's what I would suggest. At this point, that's what I would suggest. And that should be priority 1. And then after that, they need to add some corners, man. Be that we're not going to be in a position to take like a Sauce Gardner. That's not going to happen.
No.
Okay. Joey Porter Jr. is not that guy.
No.
Sorry.
He's not. And that's another thing. As we've talked about with Ian, drafting corners has not been a real strong suit for the Steelers. I am totally on board with not doing it in the first round. There are some good ones, don't get me wrong, but there just isn't a Sauce Gardner there. There's not that kind of guy. And besides, we don't play that way.
Exactly.
Either.
Besides Ike, Willie Gay, and Cam Sutton, can you think, and like I said, it's been a long week. Can you think of any other cornerback that they've drafted that has been
Deshae Townsend.
It would have been before Ike.
Yeah, that was before.
Sorry,
that was,
yeah,
that
my
was
bad.
90.
So,
So Deshae was
Ike-
98. He was drafted in the same class as Hines.
Ike and Troy were 03.
Yeah.
Yes.
So since Ike in 03, and then Willie Gay was 07 or 06.
Yeah.
And
07.
then
That was
Cam
Tomlin's
Sutton.
first year.
Cam Sutton was 17.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other corner you can think of that they drafted that was even half decent? Because I think, and no disrespect to any of them, you got Artie Burns,
Yep.
you got Senquez Golson,
Yep.
you got
Cortez
Justin
Allen.
Lane, you got Cortez Allen, Curtis Brown,
Yep.
Terry Hawthorne.
Yep.
There's a name for you.
Terry
Yeah.
Hawthorne was a 5th-round pick. I mean,
Illinois.
Ike was a 4th-round pick.
I know, but Ike shouldn't have
Willie
been a
Gay was a
4th-round
5th-round pick.
Willie Gay was another one who was,
5 or 6.
Well, the point
honestly,
is,
Willie Gay initially, we all hated Willie Gay. Remember?
I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
He was public enemy number one.
And then he got better,
He got better.
And I guess we all hoped the same thing for Artie, but his confidence was shot, and it never happened.
Well, and I also think that I would take the opportunity to say about Cam Sutton too. I was not overly big on him when we got him, and I think some of that.
And I think that had to do with his lack of physicality.
Yes,
in college.
Yep.
And
exactly what it was.
He has become more physical. He's not the most physical corner.
No.
But he's not awful.
But he was also banged up quite a bit at Tennessee too.
Yeah.
But he has grown into his role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
So the question that I'll leave out there is, what position, knowing what we know right now, would you target in free agency? If we agree that they're not going to go after a top tier offensive lineman. So does that mean inside linebacker?
I would.
I mean,
I would target all of them.
Bet,
honestly,
yes.
I would target all of them. Corner, yes, is my first choice, but I would go corner, inside linebacker, outside linebacker, because they need a fucking edge presence.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys they've got at backup and outside linebacker are awful.
What, you don't like Malik Reed?
No. I think Malik should be allowed to leave. Yeah, and
I'm glad they brought back Roche. He's a body. Nothing else.
Hopefully he'll work out. We'll see what happens. But yeah, defensive line, interior defensive lineman, inside linebacker. Could maybe use another safety.
It depends on what happens with Edmonds and KZ at safety. If you have those two, I think you're okay.
If you keep them both, I think if I'm KZ, I want to go someplace where I can start.
So that was my next question: is how many current Steelers played themselves out of a Steelers contract? Because at this point, and I listen, and they say the right thing, right? Hey, I want to stay here. I love my teammates. Where
no,
every man has his price.
Absolutely.
So what? Like I think there's a better shot of Terrell Edmonds going to play in Buffalo than it is to bring Tremaine Edmonds here.
Man. People keep talking about that, and I'm just like, you got to be shitting.
Cam Sutton, there might be another team that throws a ton of money at Cam Sutton.
Yeah, there might be.
Again, it takes two to tango. But I saw this earlier tonight when I was looking at Kenny Pickett's stats. I was scrolling down the page, and the Steelers' middle linebackers this year, or inside linebackers, middle linebackers this year, had a combined 0 forced fumbles, and 0 fumble recoveries, and there was one other. I don't want
the Steelers.
It is
3 all year.
The Steelers were 32nd in fumble recoveries this year. Number 1 in picks. Number 32 in fumble recoveries.
So how do you solidify and like I fully expect Bobby Spillane to be back, which is and I think, to be fair, he's probably the most deserving of that group. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a and maybe like running back or whatnot. But I mean, they have to look at all positions because listen, everybody on Steelers Twitter thinks that we're so close and we're only a couple players away. And like, if you, I mean, like,
we are a couple of players away from being pretty mediocre.
Maybe 10 wins. Maybe you get the 10-7, but like like they should be looking at all positions.
Yeah.
Again, like this isn't like we, you know.
I mean,
but
some are bigger priorities.
linebacker.
Some are bigger priorities than others, right? I mean, we can agree that like left guard has not been good. Okay, for example, our center is pretty mediocre, but he is,
he was a step up,
capable. He's competent. Yeah. That's where I would put him. I think that the arrow is up on Dan Moore Jr. He's still not my favorite player, but if I had to go in next year with him, and we saw substantial improvement at either center or left guard, I could live with that. I don't think they need much running back depth. You're probably going to need somebody because Benny Snell is going to want to go someplace, probably. You need another wide receiver. I think you can't just count on Calvin Austin coming in here and being amazing. You have no idea what he can do. You need to add a slot wide receiver. Gunnar Olszewski sucks. Steven Sims is a nice return man. Not much else. So yeah, to echo Ryan's point, you've got to look at everything, and you do all of that in free agency first, and then whatever's left, you pick up in the draft. You try to, and you're not going to be able to plug all the holes. They say that every fucking year. And I still, the Tremaine Edmonds point you made before, there's no fucking way the Steelers are going to pay Tremaine Edmonds $19 or $20 million a year. No, it ain't happening. Miles Jack will still be here next year. I expect Robert Spillane will come back. Devin Bush, I don't even expect the Steelers to try and sign him.
No.
Well, the other thing I'll say too is let's not forget there's been a lot of times in the past where the Steelers have signed a guy who's been almost their like premier free agent signing and then got out and drafted that position in the first round of the draft. So like, let's say a couple years ago, they signed Morgan Burnett in free agency and then drafted Edmonds. They signed there was a
Burnett. I mean, was he really a premier free agent?
I wouldn't call him premier like top market value, but he was one of the biggest contracts we gave that year.
All right.
I mean, look back at the free agents we signed that year. That was 2018. He was one of the bigger contracts. There was an inside linebacker we signed, I think the same year we traded up and drafted Devin Bush.
Was that Bostic? No.
Oh shit, I don't remember who it was. But at any rate, just because we signed somebody in free agency doesn't mean we're not going to draft that position. So
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Ben that you go out and sign as much as you can to fill the holes that you have, and then that gives you the flexibility to take best player available too.
They're also going to. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I just real quick, I want to get a couple comments from the viewers. Bud Dupree, I think Bud Dupree would not want to come here as a reserve, and I don't know that the Steelers would want him there because then you probably make Highsmith feel a little bit uncomfortable. But sure, if he came at the right price, but I don't think he's going to come at the right price. James Pierre. Yeah, I think you re-sign him. You need the bodies right now, but that doesn't mean he's going to make the roster.
So speculation is Bud Dupree will be cut?
Yeah.
Is that where we're going with this?
Titans are in big trouble, Cap.
The other Titan, and I saw a note on this earlier from Mark, Taylor Lewan. That guy played 2 games this year.
Yeah. Melvin said he heard rumblings.
Why? Yeah, because he hinted at something the other day saying he wanted to go be a Steeler. And it's like, I mean, dude, I don't know that I want to trust left tackle to Taylor Lewan, do I? I mean,
not with his
not for a lot of money,
right?
Did he say that, or did multiple Twitter people Photoshop a Steelers uniform on him, which annoys the shit out of me?
No, that's one of my god!
He just did something. He just kind of hinted at it, and then Steelers bloggers picked it up. He really wants to be a Steeler. Well, no, that's not what he said.
Yeah,
that wasn't even what he hinted at. He didn't say he really wanted anything. He just went, "Fuck you. If you're not going to sign me, I'll go someplace else."
Well, yeah.
When speaking of Tennessee, they're projected right now at like $20 million over the cap, so they got to find, Dupree. They could save $10 million by cutting.
How much guaranteed money is Dupree got left remaining?
$9 million.
Still?
So I mean, they'd save 10,
Yeah.
but with 9 dead. But he has a $20 million cap hit this year. Luan has like a $14 million cap hit. So there's 14 million. Yeah. Just total. So yeah, I mean, there's big numbers there that they could save by cutting some guys or restructuring or whatever. But yeah, the Titans are in a really bad spot right now.
Yeah, no, and that's
good for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've been there way too many times, and I'm glad.
Also, fuck Joe Nedney. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a name.
Guy.
Fuck Nedney. God Almighty.
Yeah.
God, bad memories. As far as the draft goes, we'll obviously dive much deeper into this. Why do so many Steelers fans have a hard on for the kid from Pitt and USC? Is it all because he played with Kenny Pickett?
Yes. And because they're Pitt stands.
I mean,
let's be honest.
Look, he's
honest.
Well, I've seen him. He's a great talent.
I saw him make a great play playing for Pitt, and Kenny was his quarterback, and they just have this great chemistry together. And blah. Shut the fuck up! It's the NFL.
And they're gonna be just like Burrow and Chase, even though we hate them, but we secretly love them.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? This kid is not nearly as talented as Jamar Chase. I'm sorry, he ain't.
No.
All right?
No.
Jamar Chase is a freak.
Not the size either.
Okay. Addison is a nice player.
Yeah.
He is. He's not Jamar Chase. He's not a game changer.
Did you guys see the comment that the GM from the Bills made about the Bengals? And he took some shit for it, but he was actually right.
He was right. Yeah.
He's like, hey, you got Burrow and Chase on rookie contracts. You damn well better be a good football team.
And they picked them both in the top 5. He was like, I wouldn't want to suck that bad. He's like, they're good players, but I wouldn't want to suck that bad to be able to draft a Jamar Chase.
I mean, shit, it must suck to get to a Super Bowl because the Bills haven't been there in 30-something years. But whatever.
Right. You know, it's I don't know. He was
right. You know,
the Bills are approaching.
They're in trouble.
Yeah. The Bengals' recent track record for drafting has been solid, but let's be perfectly frank. For about 3 decades before that, they drafted in the top 10 frequently, and they were never fucking lucky. And the only point I'm making here is you're not always going to be lucky. Okay, people keep talking about how the Steelers need to reset and restart, and Steelers fans would literally be suicidal if we were drafting in the top 5 every fucking year. They would be up in arms now, screaming about it. There's no way they'd fucking live through it. And then there's no guarantee that shit's going to work out. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Cleveland, a number of organizations drafted there repeatedly, and it didn't change their fortunes at all.
Look at the Jets.
Jets, Jesus.
I'm just saying, like, how many the Jets took Zach Wilson 2nd overall because the dude made one throw at a pro day.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, so listen, I agree. Like, you don't want to suck consistently to get those players.
Right.
But just because you suck doesn't mean you're going to get those players. I mean, I said this. It was a random moment, but I was like, the Titans drafted Jake Locker in the 1st round, and I can't remember
ahead of JJ Watt, right?
Yeah, it was.
It was 2011.
Yeah. And I'm just like, listen, man. For every Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, there's 15 Jake Lockers.
Well, it's not always fucking obvious. Okay, not always fucking obvious.
Yeah.
When you get the number 1 overall pick and you've got a quarterback, you need a quarterback, and the guy who's the best quarterback in that class happens to stand out like Burrow did. It's like, well, this is obvious. We're going to make this pick. Again, when Jamar Chase comes out, it's like, fuck, we need a wide receiver. We could go offensive line, but goddamn, this wide receiver is so good. It's just too goddamn obvious. You got to take Jamar Chase. It doesn't always line up like that. It's not always that simple. It's not always that convincing a choice to make. Okay.
Well,
there's no guarantee that those picks are going to work out for you. There's no guarantee that pick is even going to be there in a draft class. There were no quarterbacks like Joe Burrow in last year's fucking draft class. That's how we ended up with Pickett. And he was the first quarterback taken. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, to your point, you go back to the early 70s drafts of the Steelers. I mean, those were just some
Look at the 74 class.
I mean, unbelievably amazing drafts. It's so unique and rare. You don't see that type of thing. Bengals have fallen on hard times many, many, many times before this. So
yeah, and football is cyclical. And let's be frank, after a few decades, they were due.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yep.
It only took them 30 years of suckitude to get to the point
and it is cyclical. It just comes around. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Bengals had a top 10 pick in 2017, 2020, and 2021. I mean, you get 3 top 10 picks in a 5-year span.
Yeah.
3 top 10 picks in a 5-year span. You should probably wind up with some pretty damn good players, or you're Jacksonville and you've had 17 first-round picks since 2002. So, like, in the last 20 years, they've had 17 top 10 picks since 2002, right?
One of those was Tyson Alualu.
Yeah.
And they didn't even put him in the right spot. Like they had that. Yeah. I mean, they're much better now. They're much better now with Peterson, but yes.
The only time in the last 15 years the Jaguars didn't have a top 10 pick was 2018 after they beat us in the playoffs. But but nevertheless, like, the point still stands, right? If you have a top 10 pick in 14 out of the last 15 years, you should probably have some good players on your team.
Right.
Or you're just full of idiots.
Right. Yeah.
Or you're the Jets.
I've seen both.
Just have a toxic fucking organization like the New York Jets.
Yes.
Yeah. Very toxic.
Yeah.
But as far as the draft goes, I don't see us wide receiver round 1. I don't see us cornerback round 1. I don't even know that I see us offensive tackle in round 1. If one falls there that they really like, I can maybe see it, but I just don't know, and we're not going to have any idea more so because the Steelers are very quiet about these things. But we start being able to kind of get an idea, looking at who they talk to at the combine and pro days and all that other stuff. But you take that into account, you would have thought we were going to draft Malik Willis last year based on all that talk.
Yeah, that's
true. And the flip side too is, Kevin Colbert was here for so long. We had a very good read on who he liked and how he projected who he liked by who he visited.
That's actually a really good point.
We have no idea how Omar and Andy Weidel and these guys are going to approach the draft. So,
how much more say Tomlin will have in it now.
Right.
Right.
Who's actually going to be the guy who has the final say on draft picks now?
Yeah.
Will it be Omar? Will it be Art? Will it be Tomlin? Who the fuck? I mean,
we don't know.
It's going to be an interesting process this year. And I'm just wondering, is there any possible way that Jalen Carter could fall to 17?
I'm going to go with no.
And then they draft Jordan Addison instead.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. The thing I will say, though, is, generally speaking, like, the top 3 offensive tackles are usually off the board in the top 10 picks. The top, 3-ish edge rushers are usually off the board in the top 12 picks.
Yep.
Top defensive tackles are off the board early too. So then you get to the point where you're like, well, the top cornerbacks are off the board. Do we draft like the best inside linebacker in the draft because we have a need there, or do we pick like the 4th best offensive tackle? And I know we had this discussion the Najee Harris draft year that it was like, do you take the guy who is the best at his position in the draft class, or do you take, the 4th or 5th best guy at his position?
If he's worthy, I agree with you. You take that guy. You take the guy who's worthy of the pick. Just like,
or you could have
they traded
Creed Humphrey and
Creed Humphrey instead of Pat Freiermuth, and we'd be set.
Let me ask you this question: would you guys hate it if the Steelers traded?
That's where I was going to go next.
32 and the 17 to move up, and if so, who would it be for?
If, let's just say hypothetically, the kid from Northwestern, what's his name?
Peter Skronsky.
Decent Pittsburgh name.
Oh, very nice Pittsburgh name. Yeah.
The hell?
Yeah.
What the hell just happened?
I don't know. We lost
we can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah. There we go. Nope. Not working. Son of a bitch.
He's doing his Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically Skronsky was still available at 11 and you're sitting there on 17 and 32 and you got to move up to 11 or 12 to get him.
And the last time they moved up, they didn't do so well.
All right.
And it was the 12, right?
It was a 10.
It was the 10.
It was a 10.
Even
Which
worse.
that was the first time we had a pick in the top 10 since 2000.
Right.
I do not understand this.
I think it's going to be fascinating. Because I think they'll look at that, and me personally, we need talent. I want to hold on 17. I want to hold on to 32. I'm not crazy about trading up, but I get it too.
Because you essentially have 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to trade 17 and 32 to move up to 10, I'd rather just keep 17 and 32. You're right. They need talent. They need depth. And I know that we'll sort of see how free agency shakes out. But especially for them too, they also should be thinking about guys that they're probably going to leave, right? And one of those guys I think is going to get a nice chunk of change somewhere else is Larry Ogunjobi. I think he played really well this year. I think that they brought him here on a prove it deal, and he proved that he's still pretty good. And maybe he'll go to Baltimore this time and play for every North team.
Only thing that Larry has working against him is he did not practice 2 days
every week. Yeah.
Almost every week he sat out of practice 2 days.
Which
will lead teams to question whether or not he's healthy, which will lead teams to really scrutinize his physical.
You know what though? There's a team that puts about 50 people per game on the questionable list, and that's the Fighting Bill Belichick's.
I realize this.
Would probably love him.
They also
Harbaugh
don't pay
does
the
it
best.
too.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is those teams do not pay the best. All right. And the Steelers paid him $8 million and change this year. If they offered him the same amount of money to come back,
that's what I'm saying.
It might be enough. I think they're going to want. I think if I'm Larry, I want more than a 1-year deal to come back. I'm not coming back on a 1-year deal to the fucking Steelers. That ain't happening.
Oh,
right.
But minor spill.
Very minor.
I heard it. But no, that's the other thing too. We don't know how to and that's it. For as annoying as these mock drafts are, you know what? The dudes on the television that make millions of dollars a year to analyze the draft get every fucking pick wrong. So you know what?
Yeah.
Mock your Jordan Addisons at 17s and mock your trades. It might annoy people. Who gives a shit? Because you know what? It's all a crapshoot, and we don't know how free agency is going to unfold. But it's just fun. It's just fun to talk about.
It is.
Yeah.
And here's what I'll say
Except
right
for your
now.
Photoshops. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, stop with that shit. Here's what I'll say about mock drafts right now. For me, the value in mock drafts is I like to read them and start to learn about the players. I use them. I don't pay any attention to what teams players are matched with, but it's a good way to start to familiarize myself with guys who are potentially in that first round conversation or in the early rounds of the draft conversation, and the things they do well, because I don't have all the free time in the world to watch every single college football game. So, read a couple mock drafts here and there and start to learn a little bit about the players. And I think that's the value in them right now. And that's the only value. Everything else is just,
And I would add to that, we are also now into the college all-star season as well.
Yeah.
And so for me, the benefit is looking at a lot of the different articles on who does what daily at some of these practices and stuff. And, we all know a few people that are down there at these, especially when they get to the Reese's Bowl and stuff. And so that's valuable too. You start getting those names and putting
guys are already moving Will Levis up to number 1.
That's insane.
I agree with you. I think the guy can make some throws, and I watched a little tiny bit of his film today, and I'm like, he can make some throws. but he's got happy feet. He's as bad as fucking Kenny. He wants to run out of a clean pocket. It's like, dude, just hang in for 1 second longer. You can't do that shit in the NFL. You cannot get away with it.
Right.
Didn't they get shut out by Iowa in their bowl game too?
Yeah, but their offensive line is not good.
He didn't have much around him
and
this year.
He didn't have much in terms of a supporting cast. His ability is there, but man, he's got a lot of shit to clean up. Like his mechanics are questionable, and his instinct to run out of a clean pocket. Dude, I swear to God, it's like you're watching Kenny Pike. What the fuck? Why did he do that? Why?
Yeah. No, I agree. I watched a couple of his games this year too. Love the arm talent. Arm talent's not a question.
He can throw into NFL windows, which is a rare talent. It's the reason that Josh Allen got taken so high.
Well, the conference title games are this week, and let's go ahead and get our picks in, and that means Casey Kasem is going to warm up in the bullpen. Ian, NFC title game, you've got the Niners at the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you got?
Yes. So, I said last week that I thought Brock Purdy was going to come back down to earth, and he made some nice throws in that game, but he also looked a little more tentative than we've seen him look all year, and they didn't put up a whole lot of points.
And he also benefited by playing against Dak Prescott in his couple of picks, and another one that almost got picked.
Yeah.
Choke Prescott.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Romo.
Elijah Mitchell hasn't been practicing. He's been hurt. Christian McCaffrey has kind of been banged up a bit all year, but has still played.
Yeah.
But here's the thing to me. Did you guys know Philadelphia had 70 sacks this season?
Yeah.
Like the league leaders the last 5 years were like in the mid 50s. Actually, it was the Steelers like 5 straight years. That's the most sacks by a team since 1989. They're just the fourth team in NFL history to have more than 70 sacks in a season. Now, granted, sacks became an official stat in 1982. So,
and granted, it's now a 17-game season.
Yes,
that too.
But the last time a team had 70 or more sacks in a year was the Vikings in 1989. The other two were the Bears in 84 and the Bears in 87. And I think that the amount of pressure Philadelphia can put on Brock Purdy can neutralize some of the schematic things that San Francisco does well on offense. I think San Francisco's weakness is in their pass defense. And Philly has wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith that can make big plays with the balls in their hands.
And A.J. Brown likes to block.
Yeah. A.J. Brown's a big physical dude who runs faster than he should for his size.
Fucking guy just likes hitting people.
Yeah.
He does.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Philadelphia. The line is Philly 2.5. I think they win by more than that. I think it's more like Philadelphia 27-20 or something like that.
Okay. Scarps, what do you got? NFC title game.
Yeah, and I have tooted the 49ers horn on the show many times, and I still think that they're a good team, and I still do think that they're doing it the right way. And I am jealous of them. I'm jealous.
I agree.
I'm jealous of the Eagles too, and it just so happens that they're going to run into a better team. And Ian, you're absolutely right. They had 70 sacks this year, and they missed. Jordan Davis was hurt for periods of time. They signed Robert Quinn, and Rooney was hurt. And then, Fletcher Cox a little bit older now. Brandon Graham is even older than Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham is still holding it down. The easiest way to describe it is they're going to get in that ass, okay? It is going to be a long day for the 49ers. I got the Eagles, and then, this is definitely Purdy's moment, and I'm not wishing it on it. I just feel like it runs out, and I got the Eagles by 10 points.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right, Ben, what do you got?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. The Eagles by 10. This doesn't even to me, it doesn't even appear to be a close matchup. I know Vegas would have us believe 2.5, 3 points, but I just don't fucking see it. Yeah,
I've got the Eagles. I think somewhere in the neighborhood 24-16, something like that. I think Purdy, I like Purdy. I think he's done a great job.
Yeah.
Has fit that offense really, really well. But between what Philly does defensively, I think what they do offensively puts so much pressure on you. Running game, not just with their backs, but also with the quarterback, Hurts and those receivers. And I love that tight end Goddard, man.
He's been hurt. He was
South
hurt
Dakota
too.
State, right?
Yeah, I mean the dude, he makes plays. So I just think they're going to be just a little too much for the Niners. So that leaves the AFC. Who will take on the Eagles in Super Bowl? What is it, 57? Ian, who do you got winning the AFC?
We're doing this again.
This
All
is
right.
Patrick Mahomes' 5th straight home AFC championship game. He's 2-2 previously.
Yep.
And Cincinnati's been one team that's had their number. Kansas City is 4th in the league this year in second half offense as far as points scored. Cincinnati, on the flip side, is 4th best in the league in second half defense, preventing teams from scoring. Kansas City has the 2nd worst red zone defense in the league, allowing 67% touchdowns, while Cincinnati's down at 52%. But I think the deciding factor is in the second half. And I actually went back and looked in the last 3 games that they've played where Cincinnati has come from behind in every game. The stupid Bungles have outscored the Chiefs 44-20 in the second half of those games. So I think the Bungles do it again and go in and win in Kansas City and get back to the Super Bowl. As much as I hate it, I'm going to go. Yeah, I think like stupid ass Bungles, like 27 Chiefs. Oh boy, no, I don't like that number. Bungles. I want to pick the Bengals by like 2, but I'm trying to come up with a number that makes sense. Like 27-25 or something like that. I don't know, somewhere around there. Like
so by
Bengals
2.
Bengals by 2. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Scarps.
You saw the Burrowhead video, right? You saw the bullshit they put out and the mayor getting cocky and giving the Chiefs fucking bulletin board. I just don't. I don't
think the
see
Chiefs
it.
have the Chiefs don't have a corner that can cover Jamar Chase.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you got to pressure Burrow. And the offensive line in Cincinnati is not that good. You have to pressure Burrow. You have to overload one side or the other, hit him where he's not expecting it, get him to get off his spot, like the Steelers did week fucking 1. That was the only reason they were successful week 1 versus the Bengals was they got him off his spot. You got to get him off his spot, get him off quickly, get him looking around, keeping his head in the swivel, and not hitting Jamar Chase with the ball in stride. Because if that happens, you're fucked. You get a little bit of a lead, and then you play keep away. If you give Andy Reid a 10-point lead in that game, it is over. So I got the Chiefs, obviously, not by a lot. We'll call it 27-23.
Okay. Scarps?
27-3.
27-23.
Whoa.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying 27-3. I'm like,
No. I'm sorry. I thought you said. I was like, wow. Yeah. I've been the other game. I already had my mind made up. I knew that, but this one I've been going back and forth all week, and I know Mahomes is saying that like his ankle's fine, but like I don't know. I'm interested to see that. And then I texted you guys the other day, and I said the one thing to me about Cincinnati's defense is that they don't have a TJ Watt. Jesse Bates is decent, but he's not Minka. And I would say that their strength is their defensive line. They got a lot of rotating guys. You got Hendrickson, you got Hubbard. Reeder is another guy. So that being said, they play as a unit, Pratt in the middle. They play as a unit much better than the Steelers do. And that's what I just wish the Steelers would just be better cohesively. And they're not. And I think that's what the Bengals have done very well, especially in that second part of the season. And, Lou Anarumo's done an amazing job. I think that they're going to dial up some crazy shit because they have nothing to lose. And if if 5 years ago you would have told me that the Bengals were going to be in their second straight AFC Championship game, I would have laughed at you, because I think that would have been Zach Taylor's first year, or it was Marvin's last year. And either way, that's just a completely different culture. It's a completely different team. It's a completely different organization. So that being said, I can't pick against them, because that's just what they've done these last 2 years. So I got the Bengals late with a long play to Jamar Chase.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not out of the realm of possibility.
In most cases,
I think too, the one thing I didn't add, that at some point Kansas City's lack of a receiving core is going to come back to bite them. I know Mahomes led the league in passing yards and all that, but they don't have that Tyreek Hill. They don't have those game-breaking receivers anymore. Mahomes has done a great job, but I think at some point that lack of, playing with just guys at wide receiver is going to come back and bite them.
I in most cases, I would have agreed with what Ben was saying about the bulletin board stuff. Stupid on Cincinnati's part to go there, and mayor.
Idiotic.
But I'm going to tell you what. Burrow has to be one of the most confident sons of bitches I've ever seen. And
which is why you have to come right at him.
You do. And nothing seems to faze the guy. And I just think that when you combine that with the problems of Mahomes not being 100%, I just think Cincinnati's going to go back to the Super Bowl.
I think if Kansas City were healthy 100%, they beat the Bengals by 10.
If Mahomes was 100%, I would definitely be going Kansas City.
But
this
they're not, so I'm calling a closer game.
Right. Is it time for Mr. Casey Kasem?
I think it is. He's here this week and next week, and then after that, he's going to go back to.
Then he's going to be on hiatus for a little while.
Yeah.
No viewer/listener letters like we discussed when we were drunk the other night.
I mean, we can. You know what? Let's take a poll. Somebody get at us. Do we keep doing Casey throughout the year?
I will put out.
I enjoy this.
I thought you did put out a poll.
No, I'll put out a poll.
No, that was his Antonio Brown getting into the Hall of Fame.
That was on the SCB Podcast Twitter account. I'll put out a poll. Keep Casey for the every week, or give him a little time off
for the off season.
Yeah.
I think if we get any letters from listeners, we can bring them back for those times. So if people write to us, then
you write to us.
Send hate mail to me. Yeah,
you write to us. I will have to edit it.
No shit.
Because Ian had a good one last week, and I had to make some changes. But still, hey, listen. All right. This is Planet Fitness. This is a judgment-free zone.
Right.
All right. Let's
judge all of you.
Let's roll.
Even if we don't talk about it, I always talk about it on the show. These guys don't, because they're nicer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Casey Kasem.
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was January 27, 1973. I'm told our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is doing well. He is indeed seeking the professional help I've prescribed. Now let's get to this week's letter from a new correspondent by the name of Joe Burrow from Cincinnati, who writes, Dear Casey, hey Steelers fans, don't you wish your QB was hot like me? Don't you wish your QB was a freak like me? Don't you? Don't you? Casey, I was only 9 years old when the Pussycat Dolls sang that, but I had a vision about 2022. And in 2022, I had a vision that the Steelers would draft a quarterback in the first round, and Steelers fans would think that someday he would be as good as me. Casey, I'm not sure you know this, but I'm talking about Kenny Pickett. He played at the University of Pittsburgh for about 7 years, which is how many passing touchdowns he had in 13 games as a rookie. Keep it up, Kenny. Maybe next year you'll throw double-digit touchdowns. That's right, champ. There's hope for you. I'm only kidding, Casey. Casey, as you know, I really don't say much. I'm calm, cool, collected. I just go about my business. But Steelers fans always continually talk about my cockiness, arrogance, and how I resemble the kid from Home Alone. They never mention all the great work I do in the community. But here we are again, Casey. Second straight trip to the AFC Championship. That hasn't happened for Yins since 1994, 1995. I wasn't even born yet. We've won 5 playoff games over the past 2 seasons. You've won 5 since 2010. But hey, no losing seasons. Am I right? What's it like knowing that other teams are passing you by? I mean, hell, we, the Cincinnati Bengals, are better than the Steelers. This should piss Yins off an act. I just went Casey Yinzer. That was terrible. Don't Yins be Jagoffs. For Manny sucks. Skyline Chili for the win. Yins are just living in the past. Well, listeners, I can say for certain that was not Joe Burrow. That was indeed Ryan. And it's clear he needs even more professional help than I initially anticipated. Ryan, please, for the love of God, seek help. To aid you on that journey, moving down 8 spots this week to number 28, here's Jethro Tull with Living in the Past.
Oh, wow.
Jethro Tull, the one-time Grammy Award winner for Best Hard Rock, defeating Metallica, believe it or not.
Oh man, that was Casey Yinzer. I couldn't help myself.
Casey
it was just
Yinzer.
like I couldn't. It was
I think we've got a new character, Casey
No,
Yinzer.
Pretty awful.
That's Bobby Spillane's coworker.
Ian, you said you had one thing to throw out at us before we got.
Oh
done here tonight?
yeah, I did. Yeah, this is completely non-football related.
Oh,
But
right.
I saw a lot of chatter on Twitter about this. Mark
He's
and
going to
Ben, you
have an
may be-
11th kid this
no.
spring.
No. Mark and Ben may
12?
be too old for this, but GoldenEye was now released on Xbox. So for those of you in the chat that may have played GoldenEye in your younger days, what was your favorite GoldenEye multiplayer level?
What?
Okay, so GoldenEye was
Mark's like, GoldenEye was a game that was played on the Nintendo 64.
It was on the 64, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stack with Proxmines was what me and my buddies
I was
played.
still playing my ColecoVision, I
Yeah.
think, at that time.
Yeah. Any GoldenEye memories? What was your favorite gun? What was your favorite whatever? You know, GoldenEye was
I'll be
like
honest,
a hallmark of my childhood. So
the-
throwing it
the-
out there to the chat or people that follow us on Twitter.
The
or
best
watch the show
reference
later.
I've seen of GoldenEye was when they kind of spoofed it on Family Guy. That was pretty good. But no, I remember it was very popular. It was very
Confession.
popular.
I've never
Yeah.
played that game once.
Yeah.
What? Ryan?
I didn't have the first video. I was born in '87, and my parents, they encouraged me to play sports. But I remember like it got to the point where they were like, all right, I think we got to get something. So I got original PlayStation or whatever. So I skipped 64, Sega, Super Nintendo, all that
You
stuff.
never like played it at a buddy's house?
I didn't really. We really didn't play video. I mean, we rode bikes and shit and like played. I don't know.
Good.
Sorry.
Good.
All
That's the way it
right,
should be.
fine.
No,
All
I
right.
mean-
Well, for people who listen to the show later, send me a message on Twitter. Tell me what your favorite GoldenEye memories were, 'cause I love that shit.
Well, yeah, and on that note, we'll wrap things up for tonight and be back next week, probably in our regular. Whoever played as the guy with the killer hat was an asshole.
Yes, that's right. That's right. All right, Big Ben's burner
So
saves the
Burner
day here.
knows.
Whoever played as Oddjob was an asshole. That is the
Odd
correct
Job.
response. Okay,
Oh,
there we go.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Smack-
we'll wrap it up.
smack
Enjoy
Canada,
the
odd job.
weekend, everybody. Enjoy the games wherever you may be, and enjoy your beverages and everything else. But for these 3 idiots, this is Steel Dad signing off on the SCB Steelers Podcast, presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. And hey, go Steelers!
Ravens suck. Fuck John Harbaugh.
That's a new one.
That was a little addendum there.